as a lot of you know, the last week or so I've been telling everybody about this being my 15-year anniversary doing this show here. So thank you for all the listeners that have been listening to me. We're live on Facebook, so I do want to say hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We will share the show later on today. I'm going to go in with my first guest, too. We just heard her ad. I have with me Lori Sears, and she's the owner of Assisted Living Locators West Valley. I want to talk a little bit about you because in your ad, you talk about a little bit about you and being a registered nurse. And first, talk about what you do and why that comes into play so well.
Sure. So I am a free service. I help families find options for their loved ones or themselves, whether they're looking for independent living, memory care, assisted living, small care home settings, or large communities. And many times they don't know what direction to go. And being a nurse and having been in the skilled nursing and acute rehab field for the last 15 years, it has really helped me kind of pinpoint maybe the best options for them, saving them some time and energy.
Sure. Now, when you work with people, you can work nationwide.
Absolutely. So we are a national franchise. Our franchise actually keeps growing and growing every month, and we have franchises nearly in every state. There are a few random ones that we aren't in, but the great thing is you might feel like, oh, I need to move mom closer to my sister who lives in Ohio or in New Jersey, and you don't know where to start. So I usually connect you with my counterpart in that state, and it helps it be much more pressure-free and takes a big load off worry-wise.
Now, you are a registered nurse. How does that come into play with what you do and make it wonderful for your clients?
Well, sometimes they don't really know what to do and where to start. And so I usually do a quick phone assessment with the family to find out really what's going on. And they may not actually need me right away. Sometimes they just need a resource of where to get started. So sometimes I can actually get them going in a different direction, but then I can circle back down the road, maybe in another 6 months or more, and then they might need my services. So I think the great thing about what I do and my background is I do know all of the facets in the healthcare world and can send them in a direction that they maybe didn't think was a possibility, and see if that might give them a little more time at home prior to having to look for assisted living options.
I have that situation. I told you about somebody that I know. And I think what happens too very often is that either people wait like the last second. Probably that happens a lot. We can't do this anymore. We just have to find someone, and they call. Or like in my situation with this friend of mine who I'm absolutely positive, where they were like ready to just say, let's do it. But then mom was like, I don't want you telling me. And so that's a quandary. It's very difficult. It's a difficult conversation. And you help with that.
I do. So sometimes kids will call me, and they're like my age, and say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start this conversation with mom. I know that's what she needs, or with dad. I know that they can't be at home any longer, and I will just say, make me the bad guy. Just invite me in and introduce me, and I can just start out being kind of a friend, getting to know them, and then I can just bring up options that might be available. No pressure, just kind of giving them an infomercial, so to speak, on what's out there. Because I think from our elderly generation right now, what they look at is they feel it is the same as when their parents went into a nursing home setting. And it's not that anymore. There's so many great options out there that they can be in an amazing type of situation that will give them home-cooked meals and great people to visit with and socialize with, and 24/7 care. And it's in a home-like setting that some of them are luxury homes. I mean, they're just beautiful, and or communities that are fun for them to be in, but they can take a higher level of care now, so that nursing home experience needs to be put away, because that really isn't the norm now.
It's not that anymore. And our elderly are not not the same. And that's the other part of this is that, when my grandmother, when we think about, that was a long time ago, when we were put her in a home, they were different. They were submissive. No, this different now. And I'm sure your elderly have a lot of input. They want to. They're still very active. They're still not necessarily, I should say, I don't know what the word active or what I'm trying to say is. They still have their say, right? But they may not be able to do it anymore. They might be having a little bit of dementia or what have you that could cause them to have to maybe move into a home. You do tours. I want to give out your information. First of all, it's a free service for anybody that's listening. Why would anyone consider trying to do it on their own?
Sometimes people don't know. They just don't know that this service exists, quite honestly. And they think there's an ulterior motive of some sort or a hidden cost, but there isn't. It truly is a free service. I get paid a percentage of the first month's rent from whichever community or home that I recommend to them. And that does not get added on to their cost in any way, shape, or form. It is absolutely a free service.
So, and she works nationwide, so whether they're coming here or going somewhere else, she can help you. It makes sense to have this conversation with her, and I don't care what, I think everybody should just at least have that conversation, open up that door, even with yourself, for the person, because that's all, it's hard on the young ones, the children of the parents, because it's just that difficult situation where it's a fine line of where you walk. The parents don't want you telling them what to do, right? But it's good information, and that's what I love the show about, is that it's great information for people out there. Her phone number to call is 623-703-5326. Her website is assistedlivinglocators.com, and you put in /West Valley. Again, it's a free service. It makes sense to have this conversation. Before we go to a break, I just want to know what it looks like. I've got 1 minute, so quickly, let's just start. It starts off with a conversation, right? And then you do an assessment. Do you come to them? You do it, or you said you start over the phone?
I do a quick, short conversation over the phone, so I know if they're really needing my services yet or a resource that I can give them.
So we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk further, because it's good information for people out there to understand what the process is and what it looks like. Again, this is a free service to you. She works nationwide. The phone number is 623-703-5326. It's assistedlivinglocators.com /West Valley.
Perfect.
We're still going here live in the room because we're on Facebook here. So what does that look like? The kids probably call you most likely in a panic, but we want them to do it beforehand.
It's always a panic, always. And generally, they know they need to do something, but mom, and most of the time, honestly, it is a female, it is mom, because there is longer longevity with women and men, and it's just a statistic. But they don't want to leave their house. In their 90s, they're taking care of themselves. And they are putting their heels in, digging them in tight. They are not leaving. And so sometimes I have to be honest with the kids and say, unless they're deemed incapable of making their own decisions, you can't move her, until you get her on board. Right. I said, generally something is going to happen. There's going to be a fall. Most generally, it's what it is. It's a fall that causes a broken hip or a broken clavicle or whatever it might be, puts them into the hospital, then into rehab, and they can't go home. And that is almost 100% of the time when they cannot get them on board.
That's so sad, because it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
I also want to ask you, a lot of people, for some reason, resonate with television commercials.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the difference, why somebody should use, and I'm going to ask these things on air too, because I see the ads and I wonder, why. And people do still call.
They do. And honestly, there's a couple of reasons for that. Some, they just don't know any better. And the other one is they kind of hide their information on top of communities, so you think you're calling the community, and then you're accidentally actually calling the big elephant in the room, a place for mom.
Sure.
Is really the one it is.
Yeah.
And many times they are actually in another state. They've never been in any of these communities at all.
Right.
And so they don't even know really the right setting or the right fit for that particular client.
And I think that's what makes you different. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You go look at them, you're checking them out, you know each one of them individually. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Welcome back. We are talking with Lori Sears, and she's the owner of Assisted Living Locators West Valley. At the break, we're talking to Facebook Land, and you said that usually people always call you generally in a panic, right?
Yeah. Most of the time, there's one of two things. Generally, mom or dad has fallen. They're in the hospital, and then they're going to rehab, and they thought they had more time, or thought maybe mom or dad would be okay to go back home, and they're not. And now they have a discharge date of tomorrow or the next day, and they don't know what to do. So I can make things happen pretty fast. Once I know the situation, the care needs, the budget, the preferred location, I narrow it down to usually about 3. Sometimes we have to go to more, but mostly if I'm doing my job right, I can give you the 3 best fits for mom or dad. We set up a tour. Sometimes they go without me. Most of the time I try to go with them to try to help ask questions they aren't going to think about asking, and that way everything is transparent and everyone knows exactly what they're doing moving forward. And the thing about us, or all of us across nationwide with assisted living locators, we're hands-on. We are in and out of our communities and the group home care settings, and we know which ones are good fits. We know which ones would not be a good fit for that particular person. Maybe they don't have awake care staff and they need someone awake at night. There's so many things that are important to know, and because we are hands-on, we can help find that fit much faster and much more successful, quite honestly.
And that's why it's good to call somebody that you hear from me, because when you don't, you're getting somebody who doesn't know the environment, doesn't know the landscape, and that's your job. That's what you do. And you visit them, you go on tours, they can go on tours with you, and you, like you said, you like to go with them. Hands-on, having somebody right here with you. And I love what you said that you are there to ask the questions that they don't know that they need to ask.
That's true.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because sometimes then all of a sudden they are wondering, well, I didn't know about X, or I didn't know about this, and it's because either they didn't know the right questions to ask, or for whatever reason they didn't have anybody there to help them through it.
The phone number to call her is 623-703-5326. She works nationwide, so it doesn't matter which way, wherever you're going, in or out. And her website is assistedlivinglocators.com/West Valley. Again, this is a free service to you. So again, I always say, to me, certain things just make sense. This is one of them, guys, and the right time to call. Obviously, the sooner that you can, the better.
I have all ranges of calls. Some are looking a year or 2 out. Some are not sure if they're going to move them to California where they are, or keep them here where they have their friends and doctors. Mm-hmm. So we can try to evaluate what might be the best situation. If somebody's in late stages of dementia, it's not good to move them to a whole other state trying to keep it local where they have friends that can still come and see them. There's so many things that can happen on a long distance move. But there's also so many different options out there to know that even exist. So many people, when they do initially call me, have no idea that we have these small care home settings that can take the place of a nursing home facility. And they are much more hands-on. They have better staffing, more home-like. They treat them like extended family. So there's a lot of great options out there that so many people aren't even knowledgeable to do.
And I'm wondering, again, I wanted you to clarify, we think of assisted living as just that last place, right, that we end up. But you help people, there's a lot of people that want to not live in their big houses anymore, and they need to, be living in a community. You can help with that too.
Absolutely.
I'm calling with you because I wouldn't know where to go.
Right, exactly. And and I do have a lot of people that they know they don't want to live in their house alone anymore. They're lonely and they're tired of cooking their own meals, and they want to have some activity, but they don't really have anybody to do anything with. And those are the ones that I can move into, help find an independent living apartments. And they will be very similar to a regular apartment, but it has some meals included. It has transportation included. I mean, somebody who really isn't ready for assisted living, that is a great option for them, and actually keeps them much more active and living independently before they have to go to assisted. It extends their time.
Well, there's a lot of people too. You mentioned that women tend to outlive men. Maybe you are single, you are widowed or what have you, whether you're a man or a woman, and this stage in your life is coming. Have somebody talk to you and who knows the different facilities that are correct, even in a little you called it independent living. I know that when my ex-husband's grandfather did that, it was phenomenal for him. But you want to make sure though that you pick the right. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
You can't just look in the yellow pages, and you can't do that anyway anymore. Go ahead.
No, it is kind of a lost art, the yellow pages. But I have, one gentleman I went to see. It's been like early on when I started doing this, and he was depressed. He was lonely. He said, I know I'm going to die alone here in my house.
Aww.
And I don't know what to do.
I can relate.
And so I said, you know what, Gary, I have the best place for you. And so I sent a text message to the person that works at this community, and I found an apartment that was in his budget. We scheduled a time. I took him over. We ate lunch there. He didn't get to see his actual apartment because it was being being fixed to be prepared for him. And he went home and was just feeling beside himself with excitement and happiness. And then about his apartment wasn't going to be ready for 2 months. So a month later, my husband took him over and ate lunch with him, and he got to view his apartment. And he just was beside himself with joy. He was in a scooter on oxygen 24/7. And then I ran into him when I was touring another client there. He was off his oxygen. I didn't recognize him. He looked so healthy and so happy. He found a girlfriend. He was just...
They're the ones that are doing all these naughty things, They're this fabulous.
Yeah.
They have such fun.
And he had his last couple of years were great because he was in a really great place for him.
And I think that even happens even if it's the next level, because, I think the fear of the unknown is what happens, and it's so wonderful to be able to talk to someone like you who is so knowledgeable on, again, I'm going to say the landscape and our territory and everything, but you also know your client because you are an RN. You also specialize with people who are early dementia, correct? Mm-hmm. So, and let's talk about what that looks like for people, because it's so scary. What are the signs? What should they be looking for, what do you see when you come in and go, you know what, I think it's time?
Well, I think that many times the signs are there for quite a while. It's just been hidden. They can hide it, even from their own spouse. I've had a lot of instances where the spouse has said, now that it's been diagnosed, I should have seen the signs probably 2 or 3 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just change of scenery. Maybe they've moved to a different state. They moved here from Nebraska, and now they're in a different atmosphere, and they're not used to what's going on. So those signs of dementia show much more prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, if there's a question that there might be something going on, go see your doctor and get maybe into a neurologist that specializes in dementia.
One thing I want to say that you have said many, many times when you come on, that you try and keep them in their home as long as possible, because I don't want people to think that, just because you do what you do, oh, she's just going to get me out because she's going to make money off of that. That's not the case.
Quite honestly, a lot of the clients that I talk to on the phone aren't even close to being ready for me yet. Sometimes I never even move them at all because they end up doing really, really well with some non-medical care coming in, different things we can set up for them, and they just are using me as a resource. And so
and that's okay, but that's the start of everything.
It is, and that is really the key. And sometimes they just need education. They just need to know the right direction to go. And I'm happy to help them do that, whether I get anything out of it or not.
Right, and she works with people nationwide. She just try and keep them there as long as possible. This is a tough conversation on both ends. Believe me, the parents, they kind of know, if they're somewhat aware, but know that this might be a place. I know that's what my ex-mother-in-law is dealing with. She's very, very alert, but things are starting to happen, and it's something that we need to get on top of. Don't want them to fall. That is the worst thing that can happen, because then you're really, it's downhill, obviously,
it really
from there.
is.
And the best thing, whether they're coming here, going somewhere else, she can help. It is a free service to you, the kids out there. The phone number is 623-703-5326. Don't call people that are on television. Don't call those. This is something that, because this is truly local, she really knows it. She knows her clients. She gets to know them. If they're hands-on with you, asking you the questions that are the right questions to ask, and you can't lose on this. Again, that number to call her direct at 623-703-5326. Check her out on her website. It's assistedlivinglocators.com/West Valley.